Hey guys, so I am about to graduate high school and I just wanted to share some of my experiences studying abroad in high school because I know it is an extraordinarily uncommon thing for high schoolers to study abroad. So if you're looking for any resources about how to prepare for it, like whether or not you should go, a lot of the resources you'll find on YouTube and other search engines are stuff about studying abroad in college, and there's not a ton of stuff out there about what it's like to do it in high school. So I'm just gonna give some of my experience because when I went, I had never heard of anyone studying abroad in high school. First, for a little bit of background, I'm just going to explain why I decided to study abroad. When I was in 8th grade, I started learning Spanish and I was super into it. I had never been so interested in anything in school before. And I spent like a ton of time studying Spanish because I absolutely just loved it. And then later, I heard from someone in my church who had gone on a mission trip to Honduras, and she was talking about how she wished that she knew Spanish so she could talk to the families, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I can use this crazy passion to help other people. And so I was just super excited because that seemed like such a cool thing to do. So it kind of became my goal at that point. I was like, I'm gonna learn Spanish. I'm going to learn Spanish. So when I was in 9th grade, I actually met a kid who came to my church as an exchange student from some other country. I honestly forgot where he was. I didn't even talk to him. I just like briefly saw him talking about how he was an exchange student who came to learn English. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be fluent in Spanish. So I did some research and then I immediately told my parents, I was like, please, can I move to Spain? And they were like, no. Well, actually, that's not true. My mom at first was like, we're gonna put it on pause and then like come back to see, like, my mom was very supportive of it. She wanted me to go, but she also wasn't sure if I was 100% like sure. My dad, very much protective. He's also very supportive about it, but super protective. So as probably a lot of parents would be, he did not want me to go, and he kind of argued against it. But once he saw for like a year straight, because when he said no, I just continued to plan for it. I continued to research for it. I continued to be like, yeah, when I go to Spain. And he was like, what? He was like, what? I never said you can do this. And so as he saw like how like serious I was about this idea, eventually he was like, okay, you can go. So now I'm going to talk about how I was able to go. The first thing I had to do was talk to my counselor at school. What happens normally when you study abroad is some people will actually like hold their graduation and graduate a year late. I don't think you should do that if you plan to go to college. I would say if that is your only option is to graduate late, I would say don't do it, or do it over the summer or something. But I would not postpone my graduation for it if you are going to college, because then you can find a somewhat similar experience in college. But if you are not going to college for whatever reason, like if you have another career plan or you're going into like military or something, then yes, do it. Absolutely. For me, I did not want to graduate late, so I had to talk to my counselor and I had to create a plan of how I was going to do my classes. Totally threw my schedule off this year. I'm in a lot of junior classes because I did some things backwards, because sometimes senior classes tend to be easier than junior classes. So I took senior classes in 10th grade and now I'm in junior classes. And I had to do summer classes, all sorts of stuff. It was a lot of extra work to do it, but it was okay. The next thing is finding a program. I'm gonna be totally honest. My mother did all of that for me. I did not do any research. I did maybe 10 minutes of research for a program and then I just stopped researching. And I was like, Mother, please take over because I don't know what I'm doing. She landed on a program called CIEE. The reason she told me that she liked this program so much was because they were very protective. They had a webinar for parents who were considering doing high school study abroad with them, and I was not on this webinar, but apparently they have a very strong evacuation plan, which actually was used. I was like, no way that's ever gonna happen. They probably never even had an evacuate. Like, I was like, they've never evacuated kids. they did evacuate kids because of COVID. So their evacuation plan was very useful. And I actually, once you study abroad, you kind of get to see like a community of other study abroad kids. And so I was already home when COVID started, but from hearing from my friends that were in CIEE and then my friends who were in other programs, the CIEE kids actually did get out much more efficiently. It was a much smoother transition and way safer back home than the kids from other programs who ended up, like I saw some kids had to go do layovers in other countries, and they had to go find a hotel. Like these 16, 17-year-old kids had to go find a hotel by themselves to stay during their like long layover flights. It was complicated. So CIE's evacuation plan, although I was not evacuated, actually did come in handy. So the next big thing is obviously the price. It's very expensive to study abroad. I was super lucky to have parents and some family friends who were very supportive of this trip and who helped financially to be able to go. And I know that is not a chance that a lot of people get. So there are lots of scholarships out there, and I have since seen more scholarships to study abroad, which, you know, could have been useful back in the day. But a lot of these places do have ways to help you afford it. So if you end up finding a program and it's just too expensive, don't completely knock it off. Call the people, talk to them, and you can probably find, they will probably give you some financial aid and some scholarships. And I know that it definitely can be possible to go if it seems too expensive. So don't look at the price and immediately not consider it, because there definitely are ways to make it possible. The next thing I had to do to get ready was study Spanish. I was under the impression that you had to be completely fluent in the language you were learning before you got there. So I set out on this whole mission to teach myself Spanish, which was basically impossible as a sophomore in high school, who had only been studying Spanish for 2 years. So I would recommend doing some Spanish practice, but don't think that you have to be fluent, because that is just a very overwhelming goal that's not fully realistic for a high schooler. So then the experience in Spain. Studying abroad in high school is a lot different in college, but generally when you study abroad in high school, you don't go with other people that you know. And so you're kind of just going to a country not knowing a single person in the entire nation, which is very intimidating, but also quite a fun adventure. And that is the biggest difference between high school and college. The second biggest difference is that a lot of times in college you don't stay with the host family, and in high school you almost always do. Not always, but you almost always do. And I think the host family experience is the best way to do it. I would not do it any other way than a host family, because I think that's really the best way to immerse yourself in the culture, rather than like staying with another group of kids, staying on your own. Stay with the host family. I would recommend that. So when you study abroad in college, it's not like you're just going to a random college in Spain and then suddenly fitting into the college like you're normally going to school with other Americans. That's not the case in high school, which is the biggest difference. And the reason why I really think it's a very valuable experience to do it in high school. So at the beginning of my trip, there was an orientation where they told us, the CIEE people taught us about some like Spanish cultural things we would need to know, and we explored the city, got to know other Americans who were also doing a similar trip for a couple of days, and I got to get their phone numbers. So during the whole trip, anytime I would run into an issue, I could text them, and a lot of times they were having really similar issues, which was nice. But we did stay in different like areas, so we weren't seeing each other every single day, but it was nice to have that connection with somebody who's in a very similar experience. And the bond and connection I made with those kids is a lot different than a normal connection with friends, because we were in a very vulnerable situation together. Even though I only knew them for a couple of months, it felt like they had been like lifelong friends. The good thing is the teachers are super accommodating to kids who have taken the effort to move to a country not knowing a single word in the language. I was not graded strict at all, and my grades there didn't even matter. They're not on my transcript at all, so it was perfectly fine. But it was a little bit hard. It was very hard to make friends. I'm not gonna lie and be like, oh yeah, everybody was so nice, it was super easy to make friends. it's hard to make friends when you don't speak the language, because as much as people will try to be nice and try to like take you under their wing and talk to you, um it's exhausting from the other people's point of view, to try to continuously have a conversation with someone who just has to keep asking you to repeat themselves over and over and over again. And we couldn't really have in-depth conversations. If they made jokes, usually I couldn't understand them. So it was really difficult to make friends. And I'm not gonna lie and say that it was easy. It took me a while to actually make friends, and I felt like the friends I made from school there, I actually wasn't even that close to. I don't have contact with them anymore. However, I did make friends through the host family. They introduced me to some people, and I actually made like genuine, real connections with those people, and I still talk to those people like every week. So I did have friends, but it was very difficult to do that through school. I had to do that through the host family, which is why I think having a host family is just such a good experience, always. And when I was there, it took me about a month to start fully understanding Spanish, and then it took me about another month or so to be able to be conversational. But by the end, I did leave like fluent. I still have lots of mistakes when I speak Spanish, and it's very obvious that I'm not a native Spanish speaker. My grammar, my spelling, not good at all. But I am fluent in the way that I can understand something, immediately respond back to you. I can express any thought I want. It just might take me a while to get there. Overall, studying abroad was the best experience I've ever had, and I think it is very important to do it in high school. So if it is something that you are at all considering, I would say try everything you can to make it possible. And especially in high school, I think high school is just a really, really good experience to do it, and it's such a unique thing. Also, going and knowing another language is going to help you get scholarships. So even if it's expensive, if you're going to college, it's going to help you get money in the long run. I feel like I gained so much through the experience. Before I left, I was extraordinarily shy. I had a really hard time talking to people, and maintaining any kind of normal conversation because I was extremely shy. But once I got back, now I'm like extroverted. I learned so much. I gained so much independence, and I'm not even scared at all of moving across the country for college. Not worried in the slightest because I already have that experience. I'm bilingual, and I've been able to apply that to my life many times already. And it was such a good experience. It's helped me get thousands of dollars in scholarships. So if you're a parent who's nervous and wondering if you should send your kid off, the answer is yes. Like, do it. On behalf of your future world traveling child, please send them. As a representative of the child community, I'm begging you to allow your child to do this trip. Also, if you have any questions, please comment them, and I will try my best to answer them in either a comment, or I might even make a video answer to your question, because I really want to like start making more videos on this. And actually, while I was in Spain, I wrote a bunch of blog posts that I never uploaded anywhere. And now I'm realizing that I'm starting to get a very small, minuscule platform on YouTube. Maybe I can grow that by reading my blogs here, which I guess is a weird way to do a blog, but I'm gonna try it and see how it works. So I'm gonna start uploading some of those blogs, and hopefully they end up good, and hopefully they encourage other people to take on similar experiences. So if you have any questions at all, comment them, and also you should subscribe. I'm not a YouTuber, guys, but I'm trying, so you should subscribe to make me happy. Thanks, guys.